For a lot of people watching this video, this will be the worst plant you could ever find on your property. This is Japanese knotweed, and this is an invasive species that is not only really obnoxious, but it is also extremely dangerous. This thing has roots so tough, so aggressive that they can go through a foundation of a house. They will easily take over an area, and it's pretty hard to get rid of once you have it. Now, you might have seen Japanese knotweed around and not known what you were looking at, because you know what? It's actually kind of a pretty plant, which is exactly how it got to be such a problem. Because I am actually standing at our family cottage here, and this is actually a plant that was introduced to this area because it was not recognized as an invasive species, and it was kind of attractive, and so it was brought over here. And years later, it has just taken hold here, and it's a real problem. And I'm actually standing within the pool area at the family cottage here, and this is now inside the fence. It also is behind the fence, and I've been managing it pretty successfully on the other side of the fence for a number of years, but last year, I never got to treating it. So today I just want to show you how I manage this plant. I'm going to start with a disclaimer here. This involves serious chemicals. And it's my belief that herbicides have a place in horticulture and gardening and agriculture, but that probably we have created problems with them because they are used beyond when they should be used. This is a perfect example, though, of why it's important that those types of chemicals exist, because without them, this would be nearly impossible to manage. So the management strategy I've been using to manage this knotweed has taken straight off of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources website. Your state might have one as well, but I will also put a link to the Wisconsin one for you below so you can see it there and compare it with what your state says, or it will probably work for you too. And they go through a few management strategies, but the one that works the best is a method that involves cutting at a certain stage, which actually is about this stage. About 4 feet is a pretty good height to go after them at, and then treating with an herbicide. So let me show you how I do that. Okay, so the tools I need for this job are preferably a hand pruner. I forgot mine, so I ran in the cottage and got a scissors, which hopefully will work for this. If not, I might have to get like a knife or something, because we do need to chop off some pretty thick stems here. We also need something like this. This is an industrial syringe with a long needle on it that is dull at the tip. I bought this on Amazon. You can buy these there. I'll put a link to what I bought. These are used for any sort of obviously non-medical type of thing. A lot of times these are used for crafts, for glue and stuff too. So you can find these readily available somewhere. But it's important to get yourself the blunt tip because you don't want to have any accidents and accidentally poke yourself. We also need an herbicide, and I am using glyphosate for this, full-on undiluted glyphosate. And then lastly, we need some protective gear. I've got some pretty thick gloves here, some eye protection. I've got my long sleeves on. And because this is not going to be sprayed in any way, I don't feel that I need a mask or anything, but you could always add that in if you need that. I am using a disposable cup for this. Ideally, I would have a plastic one, but I couldn't find one. So that's the glyphosate, and that is a concentrate, but we want high-powered stuff for this. And I'm just going to draw a bunch up into the syringe and fill up this syringe. Okay. So when you look at knotweed, it looks a lot like bamboo. It's got these segments along its stem. And when you cut, you want to cut above usually the second segment from the bottom, right about, like an inch or so above that in general. Now, there are small stems here too, and we will not be able to do anything about those small stems other than cut or pull them, although it doesn't make any difference which one you do because you'll never be able to get the roots out. But when you're doing these bigger stems, you're aiming to cut right above the second lowest segment. So much like bamboo, you can see that these stems are hollow here, so that works to our advantage for what we're going to do next here. Okay, so now that we've got that cut, there is a membrane between those, and that's where this needle comes in. And so you're gonna poke the needle between that membrane. Uh-oh, there we go. And then you just give it a little shot of glyphosate. Now, the DNR does give you an amount that you need to put in there. It's a few cc's, it's not much, but I'm not gonna bother measuring. I just go for like a little shot of it. And you need to hit up every stem with it. So this is quite a laborious process, but the key is to go through the membrane that you feel between those joints. So now I'm just gonna make my way around. I like to do small areas at a time because it's pretty easy to lose track of the stem stumps once you've cut them. So I usually just try to do a small area, cut it, and then inject. So you can't really inject the little stems, the real tiny ones, because they're not hollow yet. So I do pull those, but like I said, it makes no difference. I figure it just keeps them from getting big right now. Just pulling this is not an effective management strategy for this plant. All right, so you can see this is a pretty time-consuming process. I was able to get everything inside the fence. You can see there's lots more outside the fence, particularly this stand right here is full of a lot of really thick stems. We'll deal with those too. I like to do that at a different time. I am pretty aware of a tick situation out here, which is not to say they couldn't be inside the fence. Ticks don't know fences, but you have to tromp through a lot of tall brush to get behind this fence. So I like to do that when I can get myself like fully Tyvek suit up and taped at the ankles and a hat on, and when I know I'm going to be heading to a shower immediately after. But there's one more step in this process that's really important, and why I think what happened last year might have actually made the problem worse. And that is that every bit of this knotweed that I removed needs to be bagged and thrown in a landfill. It can resprout from any little bit laying there on the ground. And I actually suspect that some of what might happen here, because this stand in particular was sort of whacked off last year, I think it probably, and then not injected with anything, I think it probably made it stronger, and probably some of that rerouted, or could have rerouted as well. So every bit of what I've cut off here, I forgot to bring bags, of course, but I will load up in my car and bag very carefully at my house, put it in a landfill, and that's that. So listen, some invasive plants are worse than others. This is probably one of the worst, and you really do need to take action if you find this on your property, because it quickly gets out of control. And if you're uncomfortable tackling a project like this and using chemicals like this, by all means, hire somebody to do it for you. There are absolutely companies who will do this for you. Make sure that they are doing it properly, though, and disposing of things properly. And really, I mean, that injection method, I used maybe a quarter cup of glyphosate for that. If you had sprayed or something, imagine how much spray you would have gone through. So we will check back with this area later in the summer so we can see if there's been any regrowth or what's going on. And by the way, that advice from the DNR website also talks about retreatment in fall if you do have regrowth. I tend to think of this as this is probably a many-year project. And because I took a year off last year, I think we backslid quite a bit on this. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you find that helpful. May your gardens not have any knotweed. Have a great day in your gardens without knotweed, hopefully. We'll see you soon.